All right, so we're diving into some seriously deep waters today. Finnegans Wake by James Joyce.
Yeah, I know it's the book that everyone's heard of, but almost no one has actually read, and for good reason.
It's notoriously complex.
Dense, baffling, really.
Yeah,
Feels like it's practically written in code, right?
definitely a challenge.
But we're not backing down. Today we're going to crack the code, extract those key themes and characters and symbols, give you, the listener, the skeleton key. To unlock this masterpiece, we'll bring out the humor, the wordplay. There are actually some hidden depths in there.
Oh, yeah. There's much more to it than meets the eye.
Get ready for giants' toes in the Dublin landscape, a mysterious letter that a hen digs up, and all these crazy recurring cycles of history all packed into one wild night's dream.
The thing about Finnegans Wake is it's not really meant to be read like a conventional novel, you know?
Right.
Joyce wanted to, replicate dream logic, how our minds just, leap between images and memories and puns and all that stuff. Just this free-flowing river of thought. Okay, so let's unpack that a little. Let's start with those iconic opening lines, right? River run, past even Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us by a commodious vicus of recirculation back to Howth Castle and environs. It's like a riddle almost.
It is. And like any good riddle, it has the key to understanding the whole work. Did you notice the circular structure there?
Yeah, I did.
That's your first hint about the cyclical nature of the novel. We start at the end, and then we end up back at the beginning.
Like that Ouroboros symbol, the snake eating its own tail.
Yeah, exactly. A continuous loop, just like the flow of a river.
And right at the heart of that cycle is Finnegan, right? The fallen giant whose wake actually sets the stage for the whole thing. He's more than just a character, though.
Finnegan's more of an archetype, really.
Yeah.
Embodies these, universal themes. Death and resurrection. You find them across all these different cultures and myths. Think about Finn McCool, the Irish giant. Thor, Osiris, even Christ. They all represent this cycle, life, death, rebirth. But what makes Finnegans Wake so unique is how Joyce grounds this universal archetype in a very specific location.
Dublin. Exactly.
And he literally maps Finnegan's slumbering body onto the Dublin landscape. So Howth Head becomes the giant's head, Phoenix Park is his upturned toes, and the city itself, it's part of this giant wake caught up in this pattern of death and rebirth.
Precisely. The landscape becomes a living character, breathing along with the giant.
That's a great image.
It's really crucial to understanding the novel because, Finnegan's Wake isn't just about one man's story. It's about that collective human experience repeating itself, across different times and cultures. Yeah. And Dublin becomes a microcosm for that grand narrative.
Okay, so then we meet Finnegan's successor. This is HCE.
Right.
Whose initials conveniently stand for Howth Castle and Environs. But unlike Finnegan, who's, this mythical, larger-than-life figure, HCE feels more human, more relatable somehow. Right? He's like the everyman, the flawed patriarch, struggling with sin and guilt and seeking redemption. He's a descendant of Finnegan, but you can also see echoes of Adam, Noah, figures like that. These men burdened by the weight of their actions and the legacy they're passing on.
But there's also this really interesting play with his identity, like this whole agnomen thing.
Yes, the agnomen technique. So basically, he takes on all these different names and personalities throughout the book.
Right.
So one minute he's Humphrey Chimpton Earwigger.
A mouthful.
Right, and then he's Here Comes Everybody, or even Haveth Childers Everywhere.
Joyce was having a field day.
Oh, absolutely. But he's not just playing with words. He's commenting on this fragmented nature of identity in the modern world.
So those seemingly nonsensical names, they're actually adding a whole other layer of depth to the character.
Exactly. By giving him all these different names, Joyce is highlighting the multiplicity of selves. We all have these different aspects to our personalities, our fears, our desires, the contradictions. It shows that even the most ordinary person can be a whole universe unto themselves.
It's amazing how much complexity Joyce packs into every single detail. And then there's his wife, ALP, Anne Olivia Pluribel, another character wrapped up in symbolism. She's not just a character. She's this river flowing through the whole novel, literally and figuratively.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, she represents the feminine principle, the life-giving force, a contrast to HCE's masculine energy. But she's not just static. She's dynamic, constantly transforming as she flows through the novel.
Yeah. At the beginning, she's described as like a delicious nymph, then becomes a comely matronly stream, and finally an old haggard scrub woman. Like the Liffey River itself, she's shaped by the city, and in turn, shapes the city.
And that transformation is what makes the connection to other river goddesses, Isis, the Celtic goddess Danu, so interesting. He's tapping into this ancient idea of the river as a symbol of both creation and destruction, right? A force that sustains life, but also carries away the debris of the past. And that ties right back into the cyclical nature of the novel. ALP's waters, they carry the debris of past civilizations, but also the seeds of the future. It mirrors those recurring patterns of history.
Like she's time itself flowing through the story, but she's not the only one on this journey. There's also Shem and Shaun, her twin sons. And these two, they're like total opposites, night and day. They represent these opposing forces like within us, the human psyche.
Yeah, it's classic. The brother battle, Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau, the eternal conflict. But Joyce takes it a step further, I think.
Sure.
Shem, the artist, the outcast, he embodies creativity, rebellion. He's got a touch of the poet, Joyce says. A queer fellow with the gift of the gab.
Sounds like trouble.
Right. And then there's Shaun, more grounded, more practical, man of the world, keen eye for business. They're like the tension between tradition and innovation, conformity versus individuality.
Oh, I totally see that. And you can see it playing out in their descriptions. But it's not just conflict, is it? There's this sense of like, they need each other, to exist.
Absolutely. Joyce was really into Giordano Bruno, the philosopher. Bruno had this idea, the law of opposites, that says that like seemingly opposing forces are actually interconnected, like they come from the same source.
Interesting.
So Shem and Shaun, yeah, they're different, but they're two sides of the same coin, right? Reflecting that duality that's in all of us.
Okay, I like that. And speaking of duality, what about that mysterious letter, the one the hen digs up? It's like a puzzle within a puzzle.
Yeah, the letter. It keeps popping up, and I don't think anyone really agrees on what it means. It's got these crossing lines, tea stains, accretions of tertious matter. Even just describing it gets all symbolic.
Yeah, and it's found in a mud mound, buried, hidden away, like it's something we're not supposed to see. Something from the unconscious, maybe.
Oh, that's a really interesting take on it. I like that. It connects to the whole idea of secrets and hidden truths. Some people think it's a confession, maybe HCE's, revealing some dark secret from his past. Others say it's like a historical document, a fragment of a lost story.
I even read somewhere that it's a message from the future, like a warning or something. But with Finnegans Wake, there's never just one answer, is there?
No, never. And I think that's what makes it so fascinating. Joyce leaves it open, intentionally. He wants us to work for it. To grapple with it. It's like the letter is a metaphor for the whole novel. It challenges how we read, how we understand.
It's like learning a whole new language, which actually brings us to the language itself. Puns, portmanteaus, allusions in all these languages. It feels almost impossible to decipher at times.
It is tricky, but that's the beauty of it. You have to remember, Joyce is trying to capture that fluidity of dreams, that non-linear way our minds work when we're dreaming.
Right.
Dreams don't follow logic or grammar. They just jump between images and feelings, and it can be like really confusing, but also exhilarating.
Okay, so how are we supposed to approach this dream language? Any tricks to unlocking it?
I don't think there's one trick. The key is to shift your mindset. Instead of trying to understand every word, literally focus on the sounds, the rhythms, let it wash over you.
Just go with the flow.
Exactly. Look for those recurring motifs, the symbols. Pay attention to how the words make you feel, not just what they mean. Finnegans Wake is meant to be experienced on multiple levels: intellectual, emotional, subconscious.
So we shouldn't be reaching for the dictionary every time we see a made-up word. Just pay attention to the overall feeling, the effect.
You got it. And don't forget to laugh. Joyce loved wordplay. He had a sense of humor about it all. Even if you don't totally get it, you can still enjoy the inventiveness of the language. Like, take PFTJ shoot.
What?
Yeah, it's like a shoot and the sound of a meteor falling, all smashed together. Or thunderword.
Thunderword.
Thunder and word. He was a master.
You can't help but admire the creativity. Okay, so this idea of recurring cycles, history repeating itself, it's like everywhere in the book.
Yeah, and this is where Giambattista Vico comes in, an 18th century philosopher. Vico believed that history moves in these cyclical patterns through these ages. The divine age, the heroic age, the human age, then back to the divine.
So Finnegans Wake is structured around these historical cycles.
Yes. You see it in the characters, the motifs, even the language. It's like we're watching civilizations rise and fall, but all condensed into one night's dream. and the ending loops back to the beginning so the cycle never breaks. It's this constant flow, death and rebirth, creation and destruction.
That's powerful stuff. But also a little unsettling. If history just keeps repeating, does that mean we're all just trapped? Like stuck in this loop?
That is a great question, and that's what makes this book so thought-provoking. Yes, Joyce embraces the cyclical nature of history, but he also suggests that change is always possible, that something new could emerge. Even within those patterns, there are variations, these little shifts that make each cycle unique.
So maybe it's not about escaping the cycle altogether, but about recognizing the patterns, like understanding the past so we can make better choices in the present, maybe even influence the future.
Exactly. It's not about passively observing. It's about actively engaging, finding meaning in the chaos, seeing the beauty in the impermanence, and embracing that possibility of renewal.
Yeah, it's a mind bender, for sure. Finnegans Wake makes you rethink, like, everything. Time, history, even where we fit into the whole universe.
You said it. Challenges our whole linear way of thinking. Makes you see the world as more interconnected, this tapestry always evolving. But it's not just about these like grand philosophical ideas.
Right.
Finnegans Wake is also a celebration of language, like language itself.
It's true. Even when it's hard to grasp the meaning, you can still enjoy those words, how they sound, how they crash together and create these sparks of meaning.
Absolutely. Joyce was a master at manipulating language, pushing it to its absolute limits, making up new words, blending different languages, puns, allusions. No one had ever done it like that before.
Yeah. He saw language as this, like, living thing, constantly changing and evolving.
I love that. It reminds me of how people describe Finnegans Wake as a circular novel. The ending loops back to the beginning. So maybe it's not really about finding an answer or solving it, but it's about the journey.
Not the destination, but the ride, the twists and turns along the way.
That's it. It's about getting lost in the language, enjoying that ambiguity, and just like embracing all those layers of meaning, letting go of that need for certainty and diving into the unknown.
That's a great takeaway for our listeners, I think. We've given them, a basic framework, the characters, the themes, the subtles. But the real journey starts when they actually dive in and experience it for themselves. We've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover.
Oh, yeah. Think of this as your starting point. You've got the tools, you've got some insights, but the real joy comes from exploring, discovering things for yourself. Don't be afraid to get lost, to be a little confused even. Find your own meaning in those pages.
Who knows? You might even fall in love with the book. Or at least, appreciate the sheer genius of Joyce's wordplay.
Even if you don't become a diehard Joycean, I think you'll walk away with a new appreciation for like what language can do, the power of it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the mysteries of Finnegans Wake. And maybe even, the mysteries of your own existence. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and happy reading.
Go to finneganswakenotes.net for full explanation of the text, and please don't forget to hit like.